The Law&Crime Network is covering the Mcstay family murder case out of Southern California, where testimony is always on hold on Fridays. It's a lengthy case, and they don't even meet 5 days a week. Bottom line, authorities have told jurors that they believe the family of Joseph Mcstay, and by family we mean his entire family, was all killed inside the Mcstay family home. They're shouldering a burden by saying that. Why is there not more evidence, or any evidence, as some people might say, that the family was indeed killed in the home? One reason is because much was cleaned up when the family disappeared. Let's listen to testimony about that now from a friend.
I walked in, and now, you know, especially because the dog was left there, it was so odd that they just reassured me that this dog goes everywhere with them, and I couldn't believe they was leaving behind. And that was just, 2 days before I last saw them. So when I got there, I just was taking maybe a visual picture of what was there and what might be different from when I was there last.
Okay. What was Susan doing when you got there?
When I walked in, Susan, she let me in. She was cleaning the kitchen.
How would you describe her mental state at that point?
I think she might have been emotional. I mean, she was, cleaning, working at cleaning the kitchen pretty good. And my first comment to her was, I have, the investigators completed their job here, and so, because apparently there's some eggs or something, some food, pre-prepped stuff that was left on the counter. I think she had told me, and so she was pretty much cleaning it all up.
Did you notice what had changed since the last time you had been in the house on the 3rd to what you were seeing now?
Well, when I had taken some just visual snapshots, the couple things that stood out when I walked into the family room kitchen area was the futon. It looked like the cover was off, and I thought that was odd. And then I was maybe a little concerned that she was cleaning the kitchen too soon, because maybe there's some evidence or something. And so with her cleaning it, I couldn't obviously make a comparison with the last day I was there.
Were the cupboard doors and drawers still out on the island in the floor where you had put in the paint?
Yeah, I believe that everything was still off because, I never got back to repainting that. But I did notice tucked underneath, and I don't know if it's some of that tucked in underneath on the island, one of the shelves was the paint pan with the foil lining in it with a paint roller with dried paint, which was odd to me because the reason I told her about the foil was to clean it up. And why would she just leave it there and for it to be dried up?
We've heard from many of these witnesses that they showed up to the family's house and did some cleaning after the family disappeared because they didn't think anything really suspicious happened. A family of 4 apparently just disappears, and it's not horribly suspicious. Apparently that's what's going on here. Let's listen to more testimony now from the detective who addressed this cleaning up of the scene and how it influenced the investigation.
Backing up, I guess, to the 16th, did you receive a call from Susan Blake?
I did.
Okay. And did Miss Blake tell you that she had gone into the Avocado Vista residence?
She did.
And what did she say about that?
That she was in there cleaning up, and Michael I don't believe he was in there at the time of the phone call, but she said he had come in and he had taken the computer out of Joseph's office, and I believe MacGyver was with her, helping her clean up and straighten up.
And what did you do after you learned that information on the 16th?
Well, it was disheartening, but it wasn't her fault. So going back to, I'm going to explain from a homicide detective, at no time am I going to get in the family's face and say, you can't, you won't. I'm actually asking them, give me everything you can. Tell me about your son. Tell me about Summer. Tell me about the grandkids. Give me everything. When you're dealing with a missing persons case and the family doesn't yet believe that their loved ones, and nor did I have to believe their loved ones were murdered, they're going to give you all the great stuff. My family's great, Summer's great, Joseph's great, the business is perfect, they're wealthy, the kids are a joy. That's what you get. And I know that, and that's fine. And sometime along that interview process over days, I'm going to try to wedge in there and say, I know they're fantastic people, tell me the bad things. Tell me who doesn't like them. Tell me who owes Joseph and Summer money. And that did evolve over time. It took some time. Kind of lost my train of thought.
Now the question is, what were you looking for?
Okay. I'm looking for, primarily under the search warrant, evidence of a crime. I'm not looking for evidence of a missing person, although that would be nice too. I'm looking for evidence of a crime. And I now believe in my heart, or I can't take it to the judge, that a crime has committed, and I'm going to find evidence somewhere in those vehicles or residence that's going to take me further where I can start to prove the crime and find these people.
Okay. So in that regard, you have a crime scene person with you, Dennis Williams?
She was my forensic evidence tech.
Okay. And you're going through the house and you're looking for potentially blood?
Yes.
Okay. You're looking for any signs of struggle?
Absolutely.
Any signs of forced entry?
Yes.
Okay. In your initial review, as you were going through the house, did you notice any of that?
No. Well, let me take that back on the back window.
Okay.
So that in the den of the residence, Michael had told me that in his statement to me on the 15th, I'm interviewing him in my car, and I said, how'd you get in the house? And he said, I met Chase on the 13th, and Chase had already been here. Chase had told me he had been here on the 9th, and Chase told me there was a back window open in the back of a secured backyard, and Michael, these are Michael's words, so I went to the backyard and I crawled in that unlocked, slightly ajar window, took the screen off, crawled in the window, and what I noticed as an investigator during the search warrant is there was a little bit of damage to the blinds, right there where he says I crawled in the window. I later asked him if he did the damage, and he didn't remember doing the damage. Not that it was a big aha moment, but he crawled in that window, and we have minor damage to blinds, and okay, that's what I got. So that's forced entry.
Okay, so obviously, if the scene was cleaned up, police are going to be nervous about exactly what may have been cleaned up and destroyed as evidence. Attorney Lisa Wells is still with me here on the Law and Crime Network. Again, why are prosecutors putting in all of the negatives here? We don't have any evidence, and, oh, you should feel sorry for us? Is that what they want the jury to believe out of this? Because the jury should be looking at the prosecution saying, if you don't have it, you don't get a conviction.
Right. I mean, where's the beef, as the old commercial said with Burger King. I mean,
yeah.
He said, I couldn't get in the family's face. I didn't want to get in the family's face and tell them. No, his job isn't to get in their face. His job is to say, listen, you've got loved ones that's missing, and I've got to do my job, and this is what my job is. I've got to have you guys get out of here. I've got to look at all of this. I'm going to have to pour over this with a fine-tooth comb, and please don't take the computer out. Don't clean. Don't do anything else. We want to help you locate your loved ones, whatever that means, whether they were still alive at the time and a missing person or whether they had been murdered. Either which way, he's not going to be able to find evidence until he does his job. But what it sounds like to me is he was reluctant to ask the tough questions of the family, and he did a terrible job. And, you know, he said the only forced entry he found was when, oh, yeah, they told me they came through the window. And then I did notice that. He didn't actually even find it. He had to be told. And then he went back and looked at it. He found nothing, not one thing.
This is just a case of examples of poor police work. Lisa, we'll be back with you in a minute. First, this break, and then more testimony in the Mcstay family murder case in a moment. talking yet again about the Mcstay family murder case out of Southern California, where defendant Chase Merritt is accused by prosecutors of killing a family of 4 in the family home and then burying the family's bodies in shallow graves out in the Mojave Desert. Authorities took a long time to get to the bottom of exactly what happened, because at first, authorities in at least one jurisdiction believe the family may have fled to Mexico to avoid business debts. We're going to listen now to some police interrogation recordings of the defendant himself. This is really interesting because in some points, the defendant really helps himself out.
Doesn't have any enemies. Everybody loves Joseph. Everybody. He has no financial problems that I know of. I mean, him and I, things were tight over the last few months because of the economy, but stuff has been, over the last couple of months, things have started picking up, and everything was looking really promising, and Joseph didn't have that much problem financially anyway. I know for sure that his bills were lost. If there's something wrong, or they're not coming back, how does that affect you? My business is done. Our entire business. You have nothing to do but the loss. No. You have nothing to do with whether it was them going somewhere you didn't help participate in. No, not in any way, shape, or form. Nothing to do with the disappearance, whether it's good or bad. Absolutely not. No. We have. I don't know of anybody that has anything to gain by Joseph being gone. I think everybody that I know has everything to lose. Everything. This business stems almost solely around Joseph. He does all of the sales. Dan's trying to send me some emails and try to, need to try to salvage some of the jobs that are trying to send stuff back, because they can't get hold of Joseph, they're pissed off, things like that, and projects that people are calling in for saying, we're ready to do them, can you get hold of us? And I'm trying to call them and trying to, but I can't do it, Joseph.
One of many things the defendant himself told investigators when they talked to him about what was going on between basically the victim and the rest of the world. Let me bring Lisa into this discussion here. Lisa, look, is it reasonable to say that this guy has no enemies?
It doesn't. They haven't presented any enemies. The only thing that they have tried to infer is, and have inferred, is that there was a lot of money owed to the victim, but no motive for killing the entire family. And they have several different folks that they could, pin it on, but it doesn't really sound. It sounds like people needed him, and that he was the idea man in the business, and the guy that made the business the business.
Basically, the creative core of it. Exactly. He was the guy that came up with a lot of the designs and whatnot. I think that Merritt did himself, oftentimes we say the defendants do themselves disservices in these things. Merritt said a lot of things that really played in his favor. Not just this whole thing about the man really had no enemies. That's one thing. But, just explaining his own business transaction, saying, look, we did business together. There was always money back and forth. There was always merchandise back and forth. I would have a couple $1,000. Then he would have it, and then he would pay me, and then there would be merchandise, and it was back and forth, back and forth. That's how business is transacted. He got into all of that in his interrogation.
Yeah. That didn't make him more, a good, solid. He would be someone that I would want to defend because he's such a good client. He just sounds so credible and so believable.
Yeah, he also said that some of the money here may have been moving back and forth because he was having his own financial issues trying to pay bills when Mcstay disappeared. Look, some more of that interrogation where he does get into this other person in the mix, Dan Kavanaugh. It's who defense attorneys say is the real killer, but he's not been charged by prosecutors.
Every waterfall, all myself, and I was dying. You know, that's what gave me a heart attack, actually. It was because we got really busy last year, and we were just really cranking. What's Dan's role? Dan was the one that he actually, to the best of my knowledge, he owns part of Earth Inspired Products. Joseph was buying him off. Him and Joseph kind of had they weren't real happy together. Or Joseph wasn't real happy having to pay him so much. Do you know what he paid? I have no clue. Joseph didn't tell me a whole lot about it.
Have you, Joe, and Dan all lived in the same apartment at one time at the beach?
Oh, no, I've never met Dan.
Oh, you've never met him?
No, I've never met Dan. The first time I talked to Dan was a week ago or a little less, or when all of this started. Dan called me and said, "Hey, what are we going to do?" I said, "I don't know. I don't have any access to, Joseph's emails. I don't have any access to any of this. I can't help him." And so Dan said, "Well, I can send you any pertinent emails if you can follow up with them. Any complaints, any problems with customers, can you try to deal with them so that when Joseph comes back, at least we've made an effort to, get this stuff taken care of."
What date was that? Do you know?
Lisa, we've got about a minute left here. He brings up this name, Dan Kavanaugh, says the victim is having troubles with Dan Kavanaugh. Dan Kavanaugh is the one the defense says police should have been looking at as the true killer. But this defendant's still there. This Kavanaugh name keeps coming up, and the defense has been very good at bringing it up regularly.
Right. I mean, Dan Kavanaugh, it sounds like that he's also... There's some checks that he has written and received, so we have the same for him. We have also the fact that he was the one who sold the business after they found out that the family had died. He also had a history of violence.
Well, Lisa, hey, I've got to wrap you up, though. We're just about out of time here. Thanks for joining us. We'll be up next on The Debrief in just a moment here on the Law and Crime Network.